It's not just kids. TikTok is the second largest social media platform in the country. Half of us are on it. It's not just kids. Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. Thank you for being with us. We're growing. We're growing with the right people and for the right reasons, and we have you to thank. So thank you. Now, my job here at NewsNation is to call out the game, the binary battle to the bottom of the two parties. And after 40 plus years of watching the biggest players and plays in politics, I can expose what's going on for you and, more importantly, to you as well as most. But sometimes this BS just doesn't make sense. And that's the case with this TikTok ban. Now, let's get it straight, okay? Don't get it twisted, rather. I'm not here to, lobby for China. I just can't remember anything so impactful on so many people, 170 million, that was done so unanimously in D.C., of all places, and with so little debate. Even SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, glided past any show of proof that China is doing what the government says it can do. They just decided to shut out half the country from the second largest public square in society. Again, I don't give a rat's hiney about China in the mix. I'm talking about the users. Now, as a result, Donald John Trump will have his first major domestic challenge, and it comes days before he's inaugurated. If the TikTok ban goes ahead on Sunday, again, I keep saying the number because I can't believe it. When's the last time that half of us were affected in a way that determines the exercise of a fundamental right? Now, you can say the pandemic, but it was different. It was an emergency situation. It wasn't done just as a discretionary act by politicians. So now that many people has to find another way to exercise political and commercial speech. And by the way, you can say, well, Trump's got to deal with it, but he didn't. No, he started this. It's not just on his watch. It was started by him. I'll remind you in a second. Well, let's relax. Everybody can go somewhere else. You got Twitter, you got Instagram, Facebook. Oh, yeah? What about the more than 7 million small businesses that are affected? 7 million small businesses. TikTok has a huge store component. All these trending goods, 50% of TikTok users, again, 170 million people, 50% make a purchase after watching TikTok content. 15 billion in revenue for small businesses. Poof. 24 billion from the GDP. Erased. Oh, it's just less than 1%. 24 billion. Why? China may be spying on TikTok users. China may compel TikTok to give it sensitive user info because the parent company is based in China. But do we know that that's what they're doing? Well, we know, but we can't tell you. When does that fly with the Supreme Court? We know China spies. We know they try to infiltrate social media because they do it on the other platforms. What makes TikTok unique? No proof was presented to the public that it is happening on TikTok. And the Supreme Court relied on nothing specific in its ruling. Now, they did it in an interesting way. They decided the case on the basis that this isn't a First Amendment regulation. This isn't about content. It's just about ownership. And a former owner doesn't have the right to own the platform. So simmer down, Cuomo. It's not about the First Amendment. How? What about, but first of all, if that's the way you're going to go, what about the thousands of other businesses that are owned by China? How many can collect customer information? Should they all go? What about Iran, North Korea, Russia? They all spy too. Often on Instagram and Twitter, reportedly. Should we do something about that? Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, they don't collect our data? Then why do I get ads about what I discuss with my people on those platforms? When will the government learn that when you tell the American people that they cannot exercise a freedom, there's going to be reaction formation, meaning resistance? Proof? Guess what the #1 app is right now in the Apple Store? Something called Red Note. Here's a hint who owns it, the red part. China. Its downloads have gone up 200% in the last week. The app's Chinese name translates to Little Red Book, an apparent homage to Mao, as in Mao Zedong. So what is it? Well, like TikTok, users can create and share short videos, and it's known for product reviews. Millions of Americans are signing up for it. Why? Because you don't get to tell us what to do, especially when you don't give it any good reason for it. But Red Note servers are based in China, unlike TikToker, where their servers are here in America. So it's even easier for China to collect data on Americans with that. It's the number one app. So does it have to go to? What's the number 2 most popular app? Lemonade, like lemonade, but with an 8. Instead of vertical scrolling like TikTok, it uses a board-style format similar to Pinterest. Collects user data, just like TikTok. So it's going to get banned too, right? Same company that owns TikTok. Then there's the online marketplace, Temu, known for their Super Bowl ad, shop like a billionaire. Their business model requires collection of massive amounts of data on their users. 80% of the revenue comes from selling data to advertisers instead of sales. What about them? And what about Spotify? Spotify's owned by Sweden, collects personal data. Well, we don't care about Sweden collecting information? Well, they're not China. They're not an enemy. Who do they sell it to? Here's what bothers me. I don't like when I don't know because they don't show. All right? It's a transparency issue. And what also bothers me is why is so little attention in this equation being paid to you and the impact on users like you? SCOTUS says this isn't about content regulation. How? If you take away the platform, how are you not, in essence, regulating content by allowing there to be none? How is it different than saying, I'm not going to regulate what you can say in the public square. We're just going to take away one of the 2 largest public areas for protest. And if the answer is, well, you can use the other place. TikTok isn't like the other ones. The influencers and creators who get paid for their skills and offerings are more, and it works better for them than any other platform. There's more commerce on it than anywhere else. There's going to be a loud group of people that Trump is going to have to contend with if the ban goes into effect under his watch. And I know, usually he would say, blame the swamp, blame Congress, blame Biden, and that works. But not this time, because Trump started it. This didn't start with Congress. It started with Trump as an executive order when he was first in office in August of 2020, when he was on a particular rant about showing that he is tougher than China. So, he kind of owns the ban. Yes, he then changed his mind, as he often does once he starts to understand situations, especially if it's something that's good for him, and he's done very well on TikTok. So now he's inviting the CEO who put out a video today thanking Trump for trying to help save the company, and he's going to be at the inauguration. But then why didn't he get the Republicans to try to stop this? And if he did they not listen? Is this the second time where they didn't want to raise the debt ceiling and now they didn't want to do this? Does he really have control of these guys the way we thought? And of course, no mention of the fact that Trump started the problem for the company, right? So I think he's going to own this, and I think he's going to have to do something about it. The question is, can he? Ordinarily, I would suggest to you, yes, because of the control I assume he has over the Republicans. I mean, it's really the party of Trump, isn't it? But again, they overwhelmingly voted for this, and they haven't done anything to stop it since Trump changed his mind. So the question is whether or not he can do it unilaterally. Why? Well, we do know that Article 2 of the Constitution invests in the executive, the president, control over foreign policy. Does this fall under that, or is it commerce? And then it would be Congress. The bigger concern is that the president, is about to be in office, and this is going to be happening. So earlier today, Trump posted on Truth Social, the Supreme Court decision was expected. Everyone must respect it. Well, then it's over, right? My decision on TikTok will be made in the not too distant future, but I must have time to review the situation. What do you mean you must have time? You banned it initially with an executive order. We've had 270 days. This happened last July. You just said it wasn't a surprise. It was expected. So why haven't you been thinking about what to do? You see what I'm saying? So that dynamic I get, that's a BS dynamic. I don't understand what's happening here, though, and why it's been so easy for everybody. Let's bring in former FBI and CIA intelligence officer Tracy Walder. Now, I know I keep bringing in Tracy and saying, did you know that she flew drones? Do you know that she investigated? I know. She wore a lot of hats. What do you want me to tell you? One of the things she looked at was what China does when it comes to this kind of espionage. So she just happens to be the perfect guest. And the other part of the equation, the users. I have a TikTok content creator, okay? Along with millions of others, she's going to lose a large part of her livelihood that, no, she can't just go do on another platform. She's also a lawyer, by the way. So she's getting this, from two different perspectives. She's known to her millions of followers, which they're going to lose, by the way, as the Korean vegan. And no, it is not her fighting name. Joanne Molinaro. Joanne, it's good to have you. Thank you for joining me. You got big fans in my house. Big fans in my house. So you've helped me just by our presence together on screen tonight. Thank you. And Tracy, you always make me smarter, so you're always a plus. So let me start with you, Tracy. What don't I get about what is known by the government that the Supreme Court didn't need to hear? Because we saw in one of the attached opinions from Justice Gorsuch, I'm happy we didn't review the classified information the government uses to justify this because the petitioner didn't get to see it. So they're saying they didn't look at the proof. So what is so overwhelming about what China's doing on TikTok that this makes sense?
Well, thank you for having me, Chris. And I really do think you really hit the nail on the head, because the reality is a lot of people are going to lose their livelihoods as a result of this. There's no question. But what I do think occurred is a lot of meetings in SCIFs, right, where they have classified information that is distributed. And what the Supreme Court did was they went ahead and trusted those meetings. But therein lies the problem. If you can't communicate effectively to the American people just how grave the national security threat is, which I actually believe it is. We have to remember, I know you backed up to 2020, but I'd actually like to back up to 2019 when Trump banned Huawei, because through backdoor channels that they had in their technology, they were able to disrupt our nuclear capability communications. That's pretty grave. And I think if we had that information out there for the public to consume, that would go a long way. I get that we cannot reveal all classified information, and I respect that, and we shouldn't. But I do think that we need to reveal some of that, and we might have bigger buy-in for this.
All right, one more thing, and then I want to go to Joanne, and obviously you weigh in whenever you want, Tracy. Explain to me, if it's that way, why has it been allowed to exist this long? Why is Trump and all these other lawmakers on it, okay? And how is it any different than what we know they've been able to, not we, you know they've been able to do on other social media platforms, along with Russia, Iran, North Korea, and probably the platform companies also, because like I said up top, and as we both know, the three of us start talking about whatever common hobby we have, all of a sudden we're all getting ads for them. So everybody's taking our information and figuring out how to cash in on it. How is TikTok any different?
I think that's a great question. In my opinion, it's actually less about information, because I completely agree with you. Our information is out there, whether we like it or not. I use these platforms as well. Look, listen, it is banned on all federal devices. They are not allowed to have it. And 34 of the 50 states have actually banned it on their state devices as well. I personally feel, although I don't have a top secret security clearance anymore, that it goes deeper than just sharing information. I believe that they are trying to access intellectual property. I believe that they are trying to access and gain access into conversations of individuals and finding out who they know through usage of the app. So I actually think that it's much bigger than simply just obtaining information, because you're right. Russia and Iran, they're using Instagram. We know that that's what they are doing. But the reality is they don't own those platforms.
Well, technically, they don't own this one either, right? I mean, this guy is Chinese, but he says they don't own, they don't control. I don't know why the easy fix that Trump doesn't come up with is relocate out of China, incorporate in the United States. I'll fast track your citizenship, and now we don't have the problem anymore, and the servers are already here. Because look at those other apps that are blowing up the Apple lists now, and their servers are in China. So are they going to get banned next? That's why you had to make the case to the American people. The Senate didn't even debate it, and it was 86-11. All right, Joanne, you have listened patiently. Thank you. You're a lawyer and a content creator. We're now all operating with equal information. You have the rest of the time of this segment. How is it going to affect you, and what do you think the equities are in this situation?
Well, Chris, thanks so much for having me. First of all, it's been incredibly enjoyable to listen to your preamble to this entire segment. And Tracy's done a fantastic job of giving us a little bit of insight into what you exactly said. We have no information about this supposed national security risk that justifies this immense burden on our First Amendment right. I came onto TikTok exactly when Donald Trump was banning it. And the first order of business for me at that time was to create content on whether or not this executive order was a violation of the First Amendment. We're talking about political speech, the most revered of all of the categories of speech under the First Amendment. And that is exactly what is being burdened, which is what the Supreme Court said in its opinion. Now, in terms of how it's going to affect me and hundreds of millions of users on TikTok, whether they're small businesses, content creators, or simply consumers, is, as you note, a complete regulation and elimination of this entire category of speech. But also, it's going to hit their bottom lines. We're talking about massive dollars to the U.S. economy, and at a time when grocery bills are like at unbelievable highs, when healthcare costs are burdening so many middle American families. This is money that these users cannot afford to lose, and it's certainly going to impact my own bottom line as well.
Well, listen, Joanne, you continue to have a forum here to discuss what happens and what the impact is. Let's take it after Sunday, see what happens, and whatever accommodation is made, I'd love for you to come back and do that. Tracy, of course, you're such an invaluable resource for us here, so you'll help us figure out what the next part is. But they should have made the case, Tracy. They should have made the case, and you're saying the same thing, and I appreciate you for that. And Joanne, I got to tell you, you're why kimchi is in my diet now, by the way. I'm not kidding. The kids showed it to me. Somehow it made me 232 pounds. I don't know. You better put a disclaimer on it the next time you put it out, because it didn't do what you said it was going to do for me. But I appreciate you very much. I hope you continue to thrive, because your content is exactly what we need more of on social media. And Tracy, thank you again. Both of you have a good weekend. I hope that it's not a very disappointing one for all of us. All right, let's take a break. 4 minutes and 5 seconds coming up. Look, we got to talk about these things. Haven't we learned that you can't just say this is what's going to happen? After everything we've been through together, don't they have to make the case? So the House just passed something else that, again, I don't really get what's going on here. H.R. 30. It's aiming to deport illegal immigrants who have committed sex crimes, domestic violence, or murder against women. Why isn't it a no-brainer? Why did 145 Democrats vote against the bill? It's just a stunt. So what? What's wrong with it? Next. Two issues with respect to immigration to chew on. The first one is the first wave of mass deportations is supposed to begin Tuesday, the day after Trump gets in Chicago. 100 to 200 immigration ICE guys are going to go looking for illegal immigrants who have criminal backgrounds and deporting them. So I want to get perspective on how's that going to look. Will it be able to happen? And the second thing is this bill that just passed the House yesterday called H.R. 30, Preventing Violence Against Women by Illegals Alien Act. Long, not catchy, but important. The bill makes any illegal migrant inadmissible to the U.S. and deportable if they commit any sex crime, domestic violence, or murder. Well, aren't those crimes already things that disqualify you from getting in? Yes, but do people in this country who are here illegally commit crimes often like that and not get immediately deported? Yes. So why wouldn't you just vote for it? 145 Democrats didn't. Is there a good reason that I'm missing? Let's discuss with John Sandweg, former acting director at ICE. Good to see you as always. Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Give me your take.
Look, I don't know why you would vote against this bill. I took a good look at it, Chris, and you're right. It basically repeats existing law. There isn't much new ground here, but at the same time, I don't see what harm it does, right? Even if it has no legal impact, it just reaffirms the principle that you are not in favor of people who come to this country and commit sex crimes or serious domestic violence remaining in this country. So I guess it was a bit of a head scratcher for me. I expected when I looked at the bill, I'd see something that was really objectionable. I can be honest, I didn't.
Right. I mean, you talk about a stunt. They're about to ban TikTok on a stunt as far as I'm concerned. You know, since when is that a no-go? I feel like they got played by Mace and they lost. Now they say, no, you're forgetting. And then they come up with the most discrete fact pattern I can think of, which is there's a report of domestic violence. The police come. It's a woman and the man, and they have both marks on them because she's been defending herself from this guy, and they arrest both of you. Now this law will make them both have to leave. Are you serious? That's what you think is going to happen enough to vote against this?
Again, I think sometimes some people can be their own worst enemy, right? And I'm looking at this one again, and I'm just saying it basically reaffirms existing principles of law. You know this well, Chris. If you commit, sexual abuse, rape, those are aggravated felonies, the most serious crimes under the INA. This doesn't even make them aggravated felonies. It just makes you inadmissible. But you're already inadmissible for committing those crimes. You're already inadmissible to this country if you commit a crime involving moral turpitude. I really didn't see anything at all in this bill that was really remotely objectionable. I mean, I get it. Like, I'm not a congressman, so there's parts of this maybe you're just trying to reject the idea of a political theater here. But at the end of the day, on the merits, it just seems, like I said, it reaffirms a principle that I think the vast majority of Americans, Democrats or Republicans, are in favor of, and that is using ICE as an organization to promote public safety.
Now, people may disagree with this, but I believe one of the Democrats' problems is they keep trying to play the Republicans' game and they keep losing because the Republicans have outrage on their side and the Democrats are defenders of the status quo. The reason to go after this bill was the second provision, to prohibit individuals from using single-sex facilities on federal property that don't correspond to their biological sex. That's an anti-trans move. That was what you would have targeted, but that's not what the Democrats have been doing. All right, now, the other thing. Tom Homan seems to me to be acting in good faith. He's got a great reputation with most of the men and women I've spoken to who've done the job in CBP and know him from that. Mass deportation, 100, 200 agents going to Chicago looking for people with criminal records. I don't even understand how that looks logistically, let alone legally. Do you think they can pull this off?
Yeah, I do, Chris. Listen, first of all, I spent 5 years working with Tom. I do have a lot of respect for Tom as well. I don't always agree with him, but I do respect him and like him personally. Listen, I'll tell you this. This is something that ICE does every day, right? What happens is people get convicted and let's say they don't get sentenced to jail. ICE gets the record of them, but can't pick them up as they walk out of the courthouse. So ICE does targeted operations to go after that population. Now, I do think for this operation, they're lowering the bar, certainly below where Biden would, right? People may be booked on traffic offenses or arrested and released on traffic offenses. But so here's what I think they did was they just accelerated a bunch of targets. And then they're going to move in some officers from across the country to do this. It really is it's the kind of operation that happens every day, just not on this scale. So something that would have been stretched out over a period of 2 to 4 weeks, they're going to try to consolidate that into a 2 to 3 day operation to kind of send a message. And Chris, real quick, I got to tell you, I mean, look, I would be lying if I didn't say during the Obama administration, there were times where we didn't consolidate operations in order to try to send a political message. And I think really, to be honest with you, that's what's going on here.
I appreciate the perspective. We'll see how it goes. I think they got to be very careful with this. I don't think it's the key. I don't think the deportations are the key. I think it's the processing at the border and changing the rules. But let's see. I'm not the president. I'm lucky I get to vote. We'll see if that changes as well. I appreciate you very much, John. I wish you a good new year, and I look forward to seeking your counsel as we see the events unfold.
Sounds good, Chris. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate your expertise. 4 minutes, 30 seconds. See, that's why you bring in the better minds. Okay, he's done it. He gets the nexus of law and practicality, and he explains. Let's see how it goes. New movement. Hashtag free Wendy Williams. Legions of fans. Where's she going? Well, She had some kind of breakdown, some kind of illness. There's a conservatorship, which is someone outside her controlling what usually we are all in control of, finances, contracts. She's broken her silence. She says she's in prison. Next.
I feel like maybe this is a bit excessive. I don't know if you need this right now. We have a lot, because we have a lot of business things going on. I never said you was drunk, but I just don't know if this is a good idea.
You.
So you think you're perfectly fine having as many drinks as you want?
Perfectly.
Okay. But I'm just going to put it downstairs and keep it cool.
Keep it there.
Okay.
Keep it there.
Now, this is a weird one for me because I know less about Wendy Williams and her show than a lot of you who are watching right now, I would suspect. But I've been with Wendy Williams, and I have seen in person up close how much her personal, her mental acuity and her physical strength had deteriorated because of her behaviors. So when I saw what came out in the controversial Lifetime documentary last summer, I knew that had been going on well in advance. We then learned Wendy had been diagnosed with a form of dementia, was placed under a conservatorship, similar to, remember Britney Spears, that deal? Now, Wendy has reemerged and is speaking out. She says she's being held at a facility like a prisoner and needs her fans to help free her. Today, Wendy spoke to her close friend, Jason Lee. You know him from the show. By the way, he just had a great thing happen in his life. He was recently named a Stockton, California City Council member. So he's like a public servant now. We're going to play you some of his conversation in a moment, but I want to get his perspective to begin with. Jason joins us now. Jason Lee, congratulations. Do I have to call you the Honorable now? The Honorable Jason Lee.
Well, Chris, you can call me whatever you want, but I did get appointed vice mayor of Stockton. But I still have a day job, so anytime you need me, I'm here.
Still the Honorable Jason Lee. What is your take on this?
You know, I know Wendy and Chris, what I love about the fairness and how you just set this up is Wendy has been battling her demons for a while, right? People who've been close to her like me, I've been around Wendy for the last 8 years. I've been on her show several times, been in her home. We've shared a lot of personal time together. I've seen Wendy go through her own personal challenges, but having talked to her today and being able to share that with my audience and now your audience, I have never in the last 8 years heard Wendy be so clear-minded, focused, very aware of her situation and where she is in life. And what I've gotten from it is maybe there was a period where she needed a break and she got that break, but now she wants to be with her family. She wants control over her finances and she wants to be able to control her life. The way she talked to me about her situation was that she's living in prison, that she's been held captive and that she's not allowed any freedom whatsoever. And now she's afraid that something could happen as a result of her speaking out.
So, Jason, first of all, bravo to you for telling the story, getting the access and bringing it out to advocate. Let's play some of it now for the audience.
I've had this guardian situation, this guardianship person, for 3 years.
You sound better than ever right now on the phone, so I'm confused.
Thank you. Well, you want to know what? I feel like, I'm being controlled, by the system I'm in. I feel isolated. I don't have anybody to talk to here. I eat food right here on the couch. I watch TV. I've got radio, and I look at the window.
When you talk to Sabrina Morrissey about getting out, what does she say?
Sabrina Morrissey says anything to keep me here because Sabrina's making money from me.
Do you think Sabrina's going to retaliate against you for having these conversations with us?
Look, I have no idea. Maybe she'll take away my phone. Maybe they'll move me to a new, more, decrepit location in New York. I have no idea. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm hung out to dry so that she can keep all of my money. This is why I need help. I can't do this by myself, Jason. It just can't be the family that fights for me. It has to be other people involved in the fight of my goddamn life.
Now, I will say Jason is correct in what he said during that interview. Again, I am not friends with Wendy Williams. I'm also not going to judge her health. That is not my position to do. But I'm telling you, I've been with her more than once. She has never sounded like this in terms of lucidity. Now, there is a due process consideration and there is a standard to challenge the conservatorship. Isn't that the natural route for her?
Well, that's what we're wondering. A lot of us are learning how conservatorships work, and we went through the whole Free Britney movement, so we saw what she was going through, right? In Wendy's situation, her family, for a long period of time, her son, who she loved more than anything in the world, weren't even able to contact her. They had to wait until she contacted them, and they only allowed that to happen when they wanted her to have contact. So Wendy had no money, no phone, no resource, and no way of people getting in touch with her. So for people who love her on a more personal, intimate level, like her family, they didn't even have checks and balances to make sure that her care was happening properly. And just recently, she went to Miami to be with her son during his graduation. The money had been cut off in supporting him to where he got an eviction notice on his property. And while she was there with him, there was a video that surfaced online where when she went out to find her car, the handlers didn't even know where her car was. So she was just sitting out in the street. And so one of the questions we all have now as her friends, because Charlamagne and I are committed to helping Wendy get her message out to her audience, is how is it that her family doesn't have a right to have this conservatorship reviewed? Why does Sabrina Morrissey have so much control and refusing to come forward and speak publicly, although she keeps dropping these alleged dementia claims? You know, why is there no accountability, and how does Wendy get due process? None of us know the answer to that, including Wendy.
You're going to find your way to counsel who's going to challenge the conservatorship. That's the same thing that had in Britney Spears, and then us all getting a tutorial in it. That's how it works. It's tough to break one of these because the person who's put in it has a presumption against them. And that's Wendy's burden, but that's why you have counsel. And there are ways around it. I'm sure you'll follow them. You, I know, as very sophisticated. I do not know Charlamagne. I've heard he trashes me from time to time, but that doesn't make him special. So I don't know. But if you guys are committed, I wish you well. If you speak to Wendy, tell her I wish her well. And I will follow this story to its duration. Anytime you need a platform, let me know.
Thank you. I will tell Wendy, and I will tell Charlamagne to stop trashing Chris. We love Chris.
Oh, no, there's plenty of reason. Charlamagne's a smart guy. He's an important hub of conversation, and the criticism, I'm sure, is warranted. I'm just saying I don't know. Take care, Jason Lee, and we will speak again.
Thank you.
3 minutes and 45 seconds. Sometimes people mistake that demeanor. I'm not like better than anybody else in terms of getting criticized. I just signed up for it. You know what I mean? I get tickled by people who are in the media and then are surprised to think it's unfair when they get criticized. This is what you sign up for when you want to talk into a tube. Up next, more proof that the government's not being transparent, and that's what matters. There's a new whistleblower who's come forward. He says the government has an aircraft that is not from this country or from anything that they understand, and they have it in their possession, and he has seen it, okay? Two men that have been on the forefront of exposing what the government knows and isn't telling you about what is in the air. Join us next. In 2023, NewsNation and journalist Ross Coulthard helped blow the lid off not the fact that we're not alone. Who knows? Who has the arrogance to believe that that's impossible? But what we all know is probable is that the government has a transparency problem and that they know things about what is in the air, UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call them, that they don't tell you. Whistleblower Dave Grush revealed the government had been running a top secret program to identify and obtain UFOs. The claim created global headlines, causing many to ask, why had no one from the program ever come forward before? Now, a new whistleblower has emerged, an Air Force veteran named Jake Barber. He was part of that top secret UFO program, and he claims that the government has an alien aircraft in its possession. How does he know? Because he's seen it. Here's what he told Ross in a special airing on NewsNation tomorrow night.
Then just visually looking at the object on the ground, you could tell that it was extraordinary and anomalous. It was not human. I got within 150 feet of this object.
What did you see?
I saw an egg, a white egg. It's been confirmed to me by ranking members of the UAP task force that what we were working with that night was in fact NHI, and it was not a unique experience.
Joining me now is NewsNation special correspondent Ross Coulthart and former Defense Department UFO investigator Lou Elizondo. Lou, it's great to see you. Appreciate you keeping me in the loop. Ross, you're the man. What's an HI? What do you find to be the level of credibility? And how does this advance our understanding?
Firstly, good evening, Chris. Can I say I'm very convinced that Jake Barber is a former top Tier 1 military personnel. He's served at the highest levels of the US military, the US Air Force. His service is corroborated by 3 people on the program, and 2 of his colleagues who've worked with him on what he euphemistically refers to as the range where these objects were recovered, are backing his story. And they are also former Tier 1 operatives, the very highest elite of the US military. We've been able to confirm Mr. Barber's service with him. We've been with him when he's gone to give evidence to the Senate Select Committee for Intelligence, and we've been watching over his shoulder as he's also briefed ARRO, the Pentagon's UFO office. And it's quite clear everyone's taking his information very seriously. The big question is anybody going to do anything about it?
What's an HI?
You want to take that question? NHI stands for non-human intelligence. It's basically, Chris, the vernacular that's used now to describe something that is not of human origin, basically a biological specimen or a technology that's created by something that is intelligent but is not human.
What do you make of that, Lou?
Well, look, if this turns out to be legitimate, then you're talking about a story that's probably even bigger than the 2017 story the New York Times broke when I first came out and some of my colleagues. This is a Tier 1 operator. So think of the best, people who've been psychologically evaluated on a regular continuing basis. They have top secret security clearances. They take drug tests, polygraph examinations, and they are really America's best of the best. They're our finest operators in special operations. So whenever anything bad goes down, these are the folks that you call to go and fix it. And so when you have someone of his caliber coming out to have this conversation with the American people, that says a lot. People better be paying attention. If it turns out what he's saying is legitimate, this is going to be perhaps one of the biggest stories, frankly, over the last 50 years, perhaps.
Ross, what are the questions for you after what we'll learn in the special tomorrow night?
Look, the simple fact is that there is a problem, Chris. The Pentagon is consistently trying to evade answering questions on this subject. They've told us that they have confirmed that Jacob Barber's claims have been made, that they're aware of the claims, but they're maintaining their persistent claim that there is no evidence of any programs regarding the possession of reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials. And I can tell you, Mr. Barber has overwhelming evidence. That evidence was provided originally to Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick by a member of his team, including imagery. And for some reason, that imagery and other data disappeared when the new ARRO director, the new Pentagon UFO boss, tried to investigate this material. He couldn't find it anywhere in the Pentagon's UFO office. It would appear someone had lost it. And I think what's going on here is the ARRO, the Pentagon's UFO office, is being used as a foil. It's basically being used by the Defense Department to try to fob off any further public transparency. And frankly, I think we're now on a slippery slope because Mr. Barber, as a whistleblower, is just the beginning. There are many more in the sidelines.
Lou, weren't you one of the guys that used to make that stuff disappear so the rest of us couldn't find out about it?
I mean, yeah, Chris, I was at a time one of those guys. You know, some people have accused me of being one of the men in black. I prefer to be referred to now as one of the men in white, trying to bring transparency and some information into the public eye. Ross has done an incredible job with this. By the way, he's been sitting on this now for almost a year and a half, if I'm not mistaken, Ross. And I know individuals that I personally am aware of that I'm friends with that are also former special operations operatives that were helping in the security of this individual because, like many of us, he feared for his life because of the information that he had is so explosive. Think about this for a second. Surprise, surprise. Sean Kirkpatrick, the former Aero director, saying, well, you know, yes, someone may have talked to us, but we don't have any more of the evidence that was supplied to us. The new Aero director, I think, is taking this topic very seriously. Frankly, I'm very optimistic that maybe we'll get somewhere with this new director. But the last director had showed himself over and over again, frankly, in my opinion, to not be very truthful to the American people and to Congress. And so now we have this whistleblower coming out, and you're going to see, I guess, in video of him actually going and reporting this information to key figures in our government.
All right, Ross, here's the thing that you got to explain to me, and then I have one more question for Lou. So give me a quick answer on this. Am I right to describe, it's not in the special tomorrow night, but it's part of your reporting, that we have an ability to use some kind of mental telepathy to draw UAPs to a specific area?
It is in the story tomorrow night.
That sounds crazy, by the way, Ross.
Well,
that sounds crazy, so help me understand.
It sounds crazy. There have been times, Chris, where I've thought I'm in an episode of Stranger Things because what we've uncovered is a secret program that continued far beyond the 1970s when it first started. If you go right back to 1974, that's 50 years ago, just over 50 years ago, Dr. Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ, who was a remote viewer, published a paper in Nature talking about a controlled experiment into psychic phenomena. And everybody has always been told that that operation stopped sometime in the 80s after it was discredited and proven not to work. What we've discovered is it never stopped. The US Air Force continued that program.
That's right.
I've been talking to people for quite a long time now, over 2 years, who claim to have been psychic or psionic assists for the US Air Force.
All right.
And these people...
So, Ross, don't give it away, because they're going to learn more about it tomorrow night, and everybody's going to get mad at me for saying you had Ross say too much. Special is tomorrow night, hunting UFOs, okay? Ross Coulthart has not been shown to be wrong about anything yet, by the way. Lou Elizondo, again, he was the man, okay? And tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern here on NewsNation, you will see the next step in what is a continuing journey and demand for just simple transparency. Ross, thank you very much. Lou, can you read my mind and tell me what I'm thinking right now? No, don't say it. I'll talk to you both soon. Thank you very much, fellas. I'll talk to you both soon. Have a good weekend. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Mr. O'Reilly is giving a gift to the audience of NewsNation like never before. What is it? When we come back.